Hi, I'm Stephen Tallamy. In this video I'm going to cover how I created one of the signature sounds for the independent film I recently scored. When I first explored the musical landscape of the film with the director, we explored some of the music native to Tanzania. Whilst we agreed that the score would be mostly orchestral in style, I was keen to bring in some of the sounds from the region. Much of the traditional and native Tanzanian music was quite upbeat and didn't really fit the emotion of this story. However, one of the tracks the director did share with me really piqued my interest. And that track was by Masiri Zawozi. Let's just take a look at it now. So the instrument that he's actually playing, I have one very similar here. In fact, I asked the director to pick this up when he went to shoot in Tanzania. It's called an alimba. Now you might be familiar with other thumb pianos, particularly the kalimba, which is a kind of a westernized version of this instrument. But this is kind of, I guess, one of the grandfathers of that type of instrument. And so you've got tines that you play across the sides here. And then you'll notice that at the top here we have these pieces of metal. These kind of give a vibration sound. And of course then we have the whole of this area here providing the resonant box. What I really liked about this instrument, not just the sort of high notes, which are kind of similar to a kalimba, but it was these low notes as well. So I'll just play you a little bit from the high notes. And then down in the low notes. And so what I wanted to do is really incorporate this instrument into the soundtrack. So what I actually did was I sampled the instrument. So I recorded it with a pair of stereo microphones and recorded it all into Logic. Let's have a look at that Logic session now. So you can see here, this is the original project which I recorded in, and effectively you can see I've just got all of the samples lined up here. A little bit of a wild track at the beginning that I can be using for noise reduction, and then each of the notes. And you see I've named each of these regions R1 and then a number. So this was the right hand number 1 note, and it was round robin number 1. And I went through the whole of the scale doing that, because one of the things about this instrument is that it's not tuned to Western pitches, and so I couldn't really assign it note names. So once I'd gone through, recorded all of the different parts here, I also did a few interesting parts at the end which I didn't ever use, but some glissandos, so sort of sweeping across the top notes, etc. Once I'd done with that, I created a simple contact instrument. Let's bring that up now. And you can see very simple UI, wasn't really making it look too pretty. So you can see I've got all of the different groups here, and they're set up as round robins with each of the samples. What you might notice is I've set this up across the keyboard in a slightly unusual fashion. And what I wanted to do was really have it play very similar to the instrument. And so as you got closer to the center of the instrument, you get to the low notes. So you can see down here, we've got the low notes here, and the high notes up here. So let's just give that a little play. So this is a very basic sampling. Although I had round robins, everything was basically played at the same velocity. And perhaps if I really wanted to have this recorded so that you could play it much more like the natural instrument, then I would have different velocity layers, because of course the instrument responds quite differently if you pluck it very hard to if you're just plucking it lightly. So when I came to integrate this instrument into the soundtrack, I had a few problems, and it comes back to what I mentioned earlier, but this is not tuned to a Western scale, so I couldn't play a melody line with it in the same way. And of course I could pitch shift it and mess around with it, but I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to keep it to the same original tuning that it was provided to me. But eventually I did find a way of using it within the soundtrack. So let's load up a track that's using it now. So this is a track about midway through the movie. You see here I've got the alimba instrument, and what I'm doing is I'm putting it through a stereo delay. This was actually the sort of breakthrough moment for me in terms of how I could use this instrument, was to give this interesting stereo effect. So let's just give that a quick playback. Quite an interesting sound, just a bit of tension there. And you'll see here I've got a reversed version of the sample, which I think sounds really cool. It's basically the sample in reverse. I've put it through a Fab Filter reverb to add a little tail to it. So what I also added to that is a bit of Hans Zimmer percussion here, and that adds a bit of a thump. So let's listen to those two sounds together. And I really felt that was a very interesting sound that I repeated throughout. So let's listen to those two sounds in context with this track. So I repeat various parts of this theme throughout the soundtrack in those moments of tension, and I found that this was a really great way of adding something unique to the sound palette that you might not have heard elsewhere. Hopefully this video has inspired you to make your own sounds, to create something unique for your next track. I would love to hear any questions or feedback you have, so please do use the comments section below. What sounds have you created to help your music stand out? And what were some of the unexpected challenges you found trying to integrate them into a score? If you've enjoyed this video, then a thumbs up is most appreciated. Please do share and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.